must take out their main radar sites.
The first episode in this series, I was able to get a lot of information and anecdotes because it was apparently a pretty cutting-edge title that I was talking about. But after that, I've not been able to find as much information, so for that I do apologize, but I can only discuss what I can discover, so there you have it. With that being said, making its worldwide debut in the UK market, Thunderhawk was released on September 1st, 1993 for the Sega Mega CD. 2 weeks later, released in Japan, and then finally to the US, rebranded as AH-3 Thunderstrike for that market, then France and Germany in October of 1993. Developed by Core Designs, which we will be mentioning later on in this series because they have a couple of much more memorable titles later on. And as an aside, that was a pretty impressive company logo splash if I do say so myself. In fact, this whole FMV cinematic intro is pretty impressive. I honestly avoided this game for the longest time because I'd assumed that Thunderstrike was one of those weird top-down military games like the EA Strike games, you know, like Jungle Strike and Urban Strike and those kind of things. Which those are okay, but they are repetitive and redundant as all get out, and they just get old after like 5 minutes for me. This video recording was the first time I had played this game, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised to see it was a first-person shooter from the cockpit of a helicopter. So this is kind of the other side to the same coin of Afterburner 3. Now we have AH-3 Thunderstrike. I looked to see if an AH-3 was a real helicopter, but I couldn't find any information on that, so I'm assuming it's just a random helo that Core made up to avoid having to license the likeness from Boeing or Lockheed Martin, which is probably a good idea on their part. Now to get into discussing the actual game, so once the long intro is over, you're greeted with a map, where you can choose whichever operation you want to start on in any order you wish to go. Each operation is broken up into a series of missions, and once you choose an operation, you are then committed to the completion of that operation until your craft is shot down. So once you complete the first mission, you have to complete each subsequent mission in that operation until the operation is complete, and then you go back to the map menu. Each 10 of the operations is spread over many different types of 4 or 5 missions. Some missions you're in the jungle shooting down bunkers and tanks. Others you're over icy tundra and shooting cannons and tanks. Some operations have you blowing boats out of the sea and blowing away bunkers and tanks of oil. Which, as another aside, I don't understand why we would be blowing up oil. Aren't we fighting for ownership of the oil? And other missions have you flying through canyons, blowing away bunkers and cannons. The enemy types don't vary all that much between mission to mission, so if you have seen one tank, cannon, boat, or enemy target bunker, you've pretty much seen them all. There are several different distinct environments depending on where on the globe you go to, but once there, they don't change all that much between mission. It's basically just a quick asset reskin. But I'm okay with that. The combat is effective and for the most part unobtrusive. You fly around and blow crap up, and the game satisfies this in a clear and concise manner.
Enemy forces have been located at Base 1.
At the beginning of each mission is a quick debriefing where you're told what will happen. Once the mission begins, you fly into battle, and you can score the bare necessary points by just completing the main objective.
Mission complete.
Or you can score additional points by taking care of secondary objectives as well. Once you've satisfied the main objective of the mission, you are free to complete the mission by just flying out of the game area. If you wish to score more points, you can stick around and blow more stuff up. If you score exceptionally well for the mission, you can earn some nice accolades like this Purple Heart of Bravery I got. Now speaking of blowing up, this game features some fun explosion animations. And once you get a game over, the FMV sequence of you blowing up is pretty radical as well, culminating in your funeral service. Yikes. As you take on more damage in the mission, more of your telemetry will go down until finally you're unaware of your stats and you're just gunning blindly. At that point it can be difficult to get out of the mess because you are unaware of the closest point of exit, so it's easier to find a wrong direction, accruing more enemy fire while trying to just hightail it out. Obviously it's best to try to minimize taking on enemy fire as much as possible. Now that we have touched on gameplay, let's discuss some anecdotes here. According to Sega Retro and Wikipedia both, this game is hailed as the highest selling Mega CD game for the UK, boasting an attachment rate of nearly 80%. So this is essentially a sewer shark of the UK, I guess. Also boasting a few 9.0 scores from publications, the critics seem to really enjoy this title as well. UK's Next Generation magazine stated it was, quote, easily the best game ever released for the Sega CD, end quote, which I take exception with, but to each their own. I was also not aware of this, but the game also spurned on 2 sequels with much more impressive graphics and gameplay. In 1995 with Firestorm, Thunderhawk 2 for MS-DOS, PlayStation, and Saturn, and in 2001 with Thunderhawk Operation Phoenix for PlayStation 2. In conclusion, if you enjoy Afterburner 3, you'll probably enjoy this as well a little bit. It's definitely not as quick, but there are plenty of things to shoot and plenty of challenges to be had. Thunderstrike offers a decent soundtrack presented by Martin Iveson and Anthony Wilden. Along with some pretty enjoyable sound effects to boot. So strap yourself in front of the cyclic stick, put on your helmet, and get ready for some rocket launching mayhem with AH-3 Thunderstrike.